Fear the Walking Dead season finale, The Good Man. It took me forever to finally get to this episode, and I also kind of screwed up with uploading the review on Sunday rather than uploading it days ago when I actually saw the fifth episode. But I finally got the chance to sit down and see this one before heading off out of town again, and it was a pretty good finale. I think one of the most interesting things is that with it being The Walking Dead and with this show being something new, even in this episode, I was a little worried about certain characters and wondering if they'd actually survive. Like in the scene with Nick and Strand when they were locked behind the door, I was wondering, are they actually going to be killed off here? And then we had like the crazy fight scene in, well, I can't really call it a fight scene, but I guess the escape scene in the kitchen, and there was stuff happening. I was like, I'm not 100% sure how they're going to play this. And of course, it does actually lead to the death of one of our characters, and that's Liza. And it surprised me because, that's one of the things where it does generally happen like that in zombie things where they don't show it off. But I think what they did that was actually unique in this circumstance is that even she didn't know until after it happened. It wasn't like, in most cases, they know as soon as it happened, but they hide it, and there's always the scene where, like, they look at the bite and stuff, and it's like, that's the big reveal to us, and then it's like, well, when is everyone else going to find out? But in this case, it was like she didn't even realize it until, whenever they were on the truck, or maybe not until they got back, or something like that. So I thought that was actually a cool concept, where it was a little different. It wasn't like she was hiding it. She knew, and she was just trying to figure out, it's like, I don't know if her plan initially, if she went, well, she had the gun herself, so I guess she was just going to shoot herself. But I was thinking at first, like, she went out there, before they showed the gun, I thought she went out there because she was actually going to jump off the cliff and kill herself that way. So it did suck that we lost a character in this finale, and, that actually counts as us losing two people because we lost Griselda in the last episode, who's Daniel's wife, because I actually remember some of the names now. And we actually lost Liza in this one, and it was pretty interesting. And it's an even bigger loss because with her being the mother of such a young character, it has a greater impact than us even losing Griselda, who, admittedly, they didn't give her too much focus. It was kind of like, well, once the thing fell on her leg, I think a lot of people already knew that she was going to die off. But with Liza being killed off, it was a pretty big surprise. And if anything, I think she's probably one of the people who should have kind of lived through that. I don't remember her having too much of a struggle during that scene where she was really being tackled. I guess there was a scene where basically both mother figures had it, and that was they probably did that on purpose because I guess it was kind of like, well, you never really know with this show, and we're kind of just assuming everyone's going to live at least into season 2. And they kind of, stopped that for sure. But we did get kind of the introduction to a new character with Strand's possibly wife, I guess. And we also find out that Strand is, like, unbelievably rich. He didn't just have, like, some really fancy cufflinks in the watch. He's, like, just flat out rich. He has a generator. He had, like, several cars. They have a yacht, which I don't know where that was, just sitting in the water. Because when they did the ending scene, it was, like, just sheer cliff face. So I don't think the yacht can just be like floating right next to the cliff. I don't think that's how that works. But however it happened, the yacht is out there. It's not too far away. They made it seem super far away when Strand had Nick look through the binoculars. But when they did the ending sort of panning scene across the water, it looked like it was actually like really close, like the way they did it. But it was also like really far away, so everything of course looks like compact when you're like super high up. It's like, oh, it's just like right there. But we get the introduction of that character, in a sense, of course. And like I said, it's possibly his wife. It could be just his girlfriend. It could even be his daughter. Really, we just don't know. I'm assuming it's his wife, though. But it was pretty cool that we got to see this house, and they have this at least idea of something that they can do. Of course, they aren't going to end up on the yacht the entire second season. Because, for one, they, obviously just wouldn't have enough resources. And it's not like they can really go anywhere. They can go, like, basically up and down the coast. And they might do that, which I would love to see if they actually did that. Because it would be interesting to see just how they film that. And how they would play with that idea where technically they could go up and down the coast, at least, for however much gas they have. They can go up and down the coast with this yacht and see, like, okay, here's more military people, or here's just people alive. So I'm not sure if that's really going to come into effect. I'm sure it will, because it's a yacht. It's like the safest thing that they've seen right now. So I'm sure it'll come into effect at least somewhat in the next season. But that was pretty cool. The whole chaos with the military compound just being destroyed also led to another surprise, which was actually them leaving the other doctor behind. I thought for sure that she would actually end up with them as well. So that was another little twist that they kind of threw in there, where she stayed. And it may or may not be safe, because of course they have, I don't know if that was actually a good idea or what. I know they had to get their family, but I mean, they just brought a swarm of zombies to destroy this compound. And I love the way it looked with Danny. He's just walking with a flashlight, like, oh, just with a flashlight. And then, he's like, oh, you should save your ammo. And then here come hundreds and hundreds of zombies, which led to some pretty crazy scenes. The craziest, and one of my favorite scenes for sure, is definitely the scene with Liza when everything was going crazy right before she met up with everybody. And she's trying to figure out, like, okay, they're like, this is your last chance to get on the truck. And she's like, go ahead. And then she sees the two guys on, like, the crane or whatever. I don't know exactly what you call it. I think a lift truck. So they fall over. They get eaten. There's a guy who gets eaten. And then he's freaking out. And he runs into the back propeller blade of the helicopter. And it just slices him up. We've never seen anything like that in The Walking Dead before. I know we've seen stuff where, obviously we've seen crazy stuff. I mean, we've seen, like, the stuff with the governor and Herschel, and he, like, hacks his head off, basically. But that was just, like, a living guy knew he was bit, and it wasn't just, like, a gunshot where they killed themselves. It was, like, he ran into the blaze and got his head, like, just sliced off. And it was a pretty crazy scene. It was, of course, super quick, but, I mean, it would be. It's a helicopter blade just spinning, and he ran just right into it. So that was a pretty crazy scene. And not just that moment, but the whole scene, I think, was probably my favorite, just because it was crazy, and it was right before she found everyone. It was like just mass chaos, where she's like, I want to go, but of course I want my son. I need to see my son. And it's just zombies just piling on the gates, and they were officially, like, breaking down the gates at that point. So it was just like when everything was getting to the peak, and it was just a really good scene. I really enjoyed that. All the craziness with Nick and Strand being stuck in the room was pretty cool. I don't know what, I highly doubt they're going to do anything with it, but, like, all those other people that they freed, I don't think they're going to touch on that, but I feel like they totally could, because there were a ton of different people in there. And Strand kind of mentioned, like, you're safer in here than you are out there, and I think he was kind of right, because if they left out, there's just going to be hundreds of zombies out there. Even if there weren't hundreds, I mean, it's enough to set the alarms off. That's more than enough zombies, obviously, for one random person who doesn't even have any, like, machine guns or handguns on them. It's clearly more than enough. So I doubt they'll touch on it, but I think he was kind of right, where they were a bit safer. I mean, of course, they were locked up, so if the zombies did eventually get there, they'd all be screwed, because the zombies would just pile on those gates and knock them down. But that was just a bunch of people, and then, of course, they all went their own way, so we didn't see where, like, this really big crowd went and what happened with them. And I kind of would have loved a scene with that. And maybe they did do a scene, and it was, like, some deleted scenes or something, and that's why they officially split off from the big groups. But of course, they had to get to Alicia and the boy. I can't think of his name. Swapping names in and out. Like, I remember someone's now, and I forget somebody else's. But they had to get to them, and of course they had a crazy scene where the military, like, break the truck open, or they, bust through the window and take them out, steal the keys and steal the truck. And then that leads to our insane ending where Andy just strolls back in. And of course I remember his name because honestly they called him Andy in this, and I was like, oh, Toy Story. So I remember his name now. Not that it matters unless he shows up in season 2, which that's one thing they could do, since technically he didn't die. And we didn't see any zombies get down there, no matter, despite how many zombies attacked the compound. It seemed like he made it past the zombies. Those other military guys made it past the zombies. They didn't have to deal with any zombies when they drove out. They didn't have a scene about that. It kind of just went to daytime. So that compound could technically still be safe, at least portions of it, because there are obviously zombies like in the hallway with Nick and Strand, and that door has been left open. So there's more room in the hallways, but that technically could still be somewhat safe, and we could see Andy return as well as the other doctor, and I feel like that kind of makes the most sense. And maybe some other people that did stick around, like, oh, you're a doctor, and maybe they were able to convince her after she kind of pretty much killed off all the other patients, because that's pretty much what she was doing, because she knew there was no help anymore once the rescue team saw that the compound was compromised. So maybe we will get to see both of them return, since neither of them died, and they both play a fairly important role in this season, at least somewhat. So we might actually get to see them in the season 2, where they end up teaming up, and they were both kind of on the same side anyway. So they team up, and it's like, yeah, this and that happened. Andy kind of lost it. I don't know why he shot Daniel's daughter instead of shooting Daniel, but that was pretty crazy. And then of course that led to Travis having a pretty interesting character moment where he just went crazy on the guy, and it's a scene we've seen and stuff before, and it always has an impact. It always works, I think, because you have this sort of pacifist character, and he lets the guy go, and he let him go at the house. This guy had to either stolen a car or truck, or he ran the whole way. I'm assuming he stole a car or truck, because wherever they were, I don't think they just, it was super close. I mean, the guy, Nick, does mention that it's fairly close, and we can imagine how much time it took, even though obviously it's scene by scene, they skip time, so maybe he did run the whole way there. I have no idea, but he went through all of that just to get to Daniel and try to shoot him. He was definitely thinking about it the whole way there. So that was just a pretty crazy scene, and then Travis beats him up, and like I said, he lets him go. So technically left open. We didn't see him get eaten by zombies. He could show up again in season 2 in some random circumstance. They run into him in a totally different location or something like that. But that was a good moment, and I thought that would be the big moment. And then of course we got the ending where Travis is the one to shoot Liza, and they have an amazing ending. Like, I love, like, actually that was my favorite scene, was the ending scene where Travis is in the sand, and they have it where it, like, it's Travis and Madison, and the water, like, washes up on them, and it, like, basically splashes, like, half their bodies. I just thought that was an amazing scene. I was like, that looks really, really good. Like, that was actually the best scene, and that was probably, like, the shortest scene, technically speaking, or at least that shot was. And it was just amazingly well done. I was like, that is just, they're both, like, right in the center. The water just washes up. It's him finally having killed someone, and having it be so personal for the very first time he killed someone. And they weren't even a zombie yet. They were technically still human. So it just had a huge impact on him. And it was just a great moment. Like, I really loved that scene. And the water kind of washing up on them was really well done. And then just the big pan that they did for the final shot, where it just pans across the water, also really cool. And they had a lot of other great shots too, like the opening. I believe they had a shot of I believe it was the opening scene, was with basically the entire city. Just there was this fire and lights are off and stuff. That was really cool. The shots of them driving when they were headed to Strand's house, all of that stuff was really well done too. I thought it looked cool seeing all these different shots of the homes, and when they were like on the I don't know what they're actually called, but like the waterway leading to the ocean, that was really cool. The little dip, and I've never really seen that in real life. I've never been to LA, so it's kind of cool to just see that long stretch that kind of just dips in the middle of the city, and that's like the giant waterway for all the excess water. It just looked really cool because I've never actually seen an aerial viewpoint of that, even though if some of it was, of course, CG, much like the yacht, which when they showed that, I was like, that was like too much CG to me, because you can tell the CG in the show, but that was like just too CG to me. I was like, man. And it even had like fake rocking in the waves and stuff. I was like, it just looks so fake. It just didn't, it was just like, it stood out as so fake, and it was kind of funny. But I enjoyed this finale. I thought it was pretty cool. It was kind of cool that they mentioned the Flight 467 thing at the end of this, because I planned on watching it. I don't know if I'll get the chance this week before the season 6 of regular Walking Dead actually premieres. But I'm still going to check it out, whether I get to see it before the premiere or not. But the way they mention it is, or the way they kind of describe it, is that it's actually going to keep going. So I don't think it is just, I thought it was going to be like just a couple of shorts, or maybe like even one long thing that was like 15 minutes or something, because it's in a flight. I didn't think it would be like a long story chapter, but it seems like it is. Like it's going to come out weekly with The Walking Dead. So I'm actually excited to kind of catch up on that and see how many episodes they have, because they've done that before, and I think I mentioned this when the show was in, like, I think maybe even in the first or second season, they'd done web series where it was about other people and, you know, them surviving as well. It was just a web series with different characters, and I never watched that, but that was like really early on. So now they're doing it where it actually ties into the current series, or at least, you know, this spin-off series. So that's really cool. I can't wait to check that out. But I think this was a pretty cool finale. Surprising death with Liza. Surprising that they left the other doctor behind. I really thought that she would become kind of a part of the main cast, and she was just there. She was gone, as Madison said. It's just like, we gotta go. She's just kind of stuck in this zone right now. And I love that. It was a nice little twist that I wasn't expecting. Could technically still see her, like I said, as well as Andy. But I'm looking forward to season 2. I'm looking forward to see who this new character is that Strand is related to, what they do with the yacht, how far they end up getting, you know, with that. And of course, how the characters are affected with losing Liza. Because that's going to affect everyone, because it was like right there. Like everyone heard the gunshot. It wasn't like Griselda where Liza was the only one there, and everyone learns after the fact. It was like everyone heard that shot, and, you know, like they can just think like, this is what we were doing as soon as we heard that shot and we lost Liza. So I'm looking forward to that emotional impact for the characters, and of course it'll affect two specific characters way more than others, but still looking forward to that. I think this was a good finale, good first season as well. Don't know if it'll be the same sort of short type of thing with 6 episodes, but either way, I'm excited for it. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this finale, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I want to know what you guys thought about us losing Liza. Did it surprise you? Did it not surprise you? Would you prefer to lose somebody else? If you had to kind of switch things out, would you have chosen someone else to die instead of Liza? What would you guys do? I mean, personally, I mean, obviously with the characters they left alive, it just means that they're going to get more story. But I feel like outside of, like, it was really the Salazar family that got the least attention. It was like Daniel got the most, and then his daughter, and then his wife. His wife probably, or not his wife, but his daughter, I probably would have switched out for Liza just because we didn't get to see enough of her. But obviously since they left her alive, that just means we will. So it has its odd balance. It's like we didn't see enough of her at this point where I would have been like, I'm okay with it. I would have switched them out, but that also just means we're going to get to see way more and learn more about her. And also, she'll have an emotional impact as well. I mean, she already had it just a little bit in this episode, dealing with the truth about her father, where he wasn't really the victim in everything that he did. And of course, being shot by her sort of guy, I guess we can't even really say boyfriend, but the guy, and just all that craziness. So we'll get to see a lot more about her, and I'm excited for that as well. But like I said, want to know what you guys thought about this finale. Want to know, of course, if you're excited for season 2, if you're going to check out Flight 467, which you probably will if you're interested in a season 2 for Fear. But please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.